This podcast is brought to you by M&S Food, where exceptional quality meets everyday inspiration. At M&S, they believe great food starts with great ingredients, from expertly sourced fresh produce from Ireland and around the world to chef-created dishes that make every meal feel special. So when they say this is not just food, they mean it. As a chef, I've always loved the M&S approach to food, from the sourcing to the standards. It's the kind of attention to detail that really matters in a kitchen. It's food made with purpose, and that's something I can really get behind. I'm Mark Moriarty, and this is Roasted. Let's get into it.
Pilau rice, yeah, with vegetable.
You said yellow rice with vegetable, so I assumed it was pilau. Did I get that wrong?
I'm an expert. No. I said pilau rice with vegetable,
Okay.
right, which is yellow, and the chicken curry,
Garlic naan bread.
garlic naan bread, a glass of organic red wine,
Sambuca.
a sambuca,
and
and a Irish coffee.
then Bruxelles.
No. A Jameson.
Oh yeah, old oak aged.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then a taxi into Brussels.
Bruxelles. Are we recording that?
Oh, God. No, that's lovely. That is, and I'm not just saying it. Look, I tasted food on the high road, low road in Berlin, and I had to go to a food 8-course, right? And my ignorance being a council estate fella from Cabra, I said, how am I going to eat 8 courses? Well, I can tell you now, the biggest course size of a matchbox, right? And I got a course, and I was looking in a little box, and I was tasting it, and I was trying to look the part, and, as if I'd done this before, this fine dining. And I went, that's sushi. It's beautiful, So, and I was giving it that in front of the camera, and then they come down, the waiter comes down and explains what it was. It was a curry. I said, cut that out. I'd be destroyed. I went, cut that one out. It was a curry. A little tiny curry, But anyway, it was lovely. But no, I'm gonna taste this, and I mean it. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's not good for you.
Isn't it?
Oh, that's like making that now. Because it's been a long time since I made something like that. It's kind of a butter chicken recipe. There's cream in it. There's Indian ghee. There's butter. There's palm sugar. There's salt. That's why it tastes so good, though.
But once a week.
Once a week. Yeah, listen, life's for living.
I live on water and porridge and you name it. That's my diet. I have a brilliant diet because of cholesterol.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Pardon me. But I have that once a week.
Now, you better drink a sip of that, because I searched high and low for organic red wine.
Don't tell me where it's from. All right?
Turn the bottle. I even polished the glass for you. I said, can't give Roddy Collins a dirty glass.
Know where that's from? Marks and Spencer's. 100%.
Oh, we like you as a guest.
I was doing it. I went to what would you call it? An open air wake up in Francis Street about 2 years ago. Right, Mattress Face was the fella that was getting buried. Steve O'Reynolds played for St. Francis, great bloke. He worked in the county council, the corpo we call it. He drove a JCB. I'll tell you a story about him, will I?
Do.
So I met him up in the Dean Swift back in the day when it was a dub pub, and we're having a chat, and I said, I'm getting a new driveway in. He said, I'll break the old one up for you. No problem. Brilliant. He said, I'll be up Tuesday morning. I said, okay. Tuesday morning, I hear that. I looked out the window and he was 3 doors down breaking up the neighbour's driveway. Right? But anyway, getting back, poor old Steve passed away about 2 years ago now. And all the lads, the ex-St. Francis footballers, we had a big gathering, and there was a freebie in the off licence around in Meath Street. So a fellow was going around to get the order. Create a Guinness, create this, create that. And I said, Demo McGrain. I says, Demo, get me a bottle of organic red wine. And he looked at me and said, what? What's organic red? What's organic mean, right? I said, just get me a bottle of organic. And then I went one forward. I said, make sure it's down around Palermo. I don't want the grape from anywhere else. And there's a fella that drinks pints of stout all his life. And he went around the off licence. And he tried to get something. But anyway, no, organic doesn't give you a headache.
That why I was going to ask.
That's the way. Yeah.
So you drink 5 bottles of that now, you won't get a headache tomorrow?
No problem. No, I never drank 5 bottles in my life. But I've often drank I bring me bottle of wine with me. If I'm going into Okra where I eat this meal, or the Toy Garden, either, I bring a bottle of organic wine in, and I think it only costs about 12 quid.
Okay, yep.
Right? And you can bring two, or you can have one at home. You'll never have a hangover. I could extend the stay there because normally, for some reason, someone pays the bill and sends me over a bottle of wine. That's happening regular. So I get a bottle of whatever wine is in there. I'll be sick the next day. It's not the food, So obviously the wine, it's whatever additives are in it,
People are giving you the wine because, and this is one thing I was going through a lot of stuff yesterday before chatting to you today. You strike me as kind of a character of Dublin. And we'll get into the football and all that further down the line, but
yeah,
you love Dublin.
Love it. Love it. From leaving the house till we got from Parkgate Street to here, my taxi driver was a Somalian chap, and I gave him an absolute history lesson. I told him the smallest street in Dublin. What's the smallest street in Dublin?
Jesus, no.
It's off Dame Street, Palace Street.
Okay.
You should know there's a French restaurant right in the corner.
It is.
As you go into Dublin Castle, where Carson was born, Harcourt Street.
Okay.
He was the Prime Minister back in the day of the North. The first...
Chez Max is the restaurant.
There you go. Is it a French one?
Yeah. There's only like 2 buildings on that street. Yeah.
That's right. It's the smallest street in Dublin. So little things like that. I walk the streets of Dublin. I give out a few smokes. Not as much now. I used to in lockdown give a lot more out. Go around.
I used to walk like for hours a day.
Well, I left the house last Sunday with Caroline at 1:30, and we walked from Castleknock over to Brabazon Square because I was in Guinness's on Friday. Got all my dad's old addresses in Thomas Street and that. So I said, we'll walk in. So I walked over there, walked around town, and I got a train home at about, I think we were walking for 5 hours. A train home. But I would go as far as Rathmines, as far as Talbot Street. On different, obviously the weather permitting. And I love Dublin. And I love the people of Dublin. Unfortunately, at this moment in time, it's losing its character.
So it has changed.
Oh, hugely. Really, how can I say, from my probably vintage, it's probably changed, dramatically for the wrong reasons for me. And don't get me wrong, people talk about the influx of foreign nationals coming in and that. I don't see any problem with that at all, and it's enjoyable. But for me, liking to engage, I'd walk from O'Connell Street to Henry Street 15 years ago, take me 2 hours. You'd meet somebody.
Yep.
Don't do that anymore. I walked up Stevens's Hill from coming out of Phoenix Park, walked up Stevens's Hill, all down Thomas Street, Brabazon Street, Reginald Street, in around my mother's and father's old haunt.
Real old part of town.
Old part of town. And I have to say, it's the last Dublin connection, and it's changing rapid as well. I spoke to 2 lads in an antique shop, just walking by and having a crack with them, and they were my own age. And then it materialised, their fathers worked in Guinness's. Where I lived in Anamo, their sister, Mrs. Flynn, who I knew, was selling the house at the moment. So I stood with them and engaged for about 45 minutes in a conversation all about old Dublin. Pardon me, our Dublin. It was brilliant.
That doesn't happen anymore.
No, it's gone.
Why?
Because the inner city is not populated with inner city people anymore. I was born in Cabra, but I spent my time in around town. I played for O'Connell boys in the Gaelic there out in Sheriff Street and that, and I would have hung around with people from Summer Hill, Sheriff Street, Sean McDermott Street from a young age. And you would know, like I would meet you, I'd know your uncle, or your uncle would know my uncle, or somebody would know somebody. And for different kinds of reasons, if you met somebody and you had a bit of difficulty with something, like, for argument's sake, my wife has a sheepskin coat, and I knew where to go with that in Abbey Street back in the day. It was called New York. It was a cleaners that would do a sheepskin coat. I can't find anyone to tell me where to get this. A bit of renovation needs on it. Back in the day, you'd meet someone, Rod, I'll tell you where to go with that. Or you'd have a conversation, go, sure, what are you stuck for? No, I'm trying to get a truck to do something for me. Sure, I know fella Anto, he'll do that for you, he works in the corpo. And it was great. It was a community.
Community is the word.
It's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone, unfortunately. Moore Street is gone. Capel Street is gone. That was my street, Louis, Olympus. And if you wanted to have a point, go into Slattery's when we were younger. It's gone. Parnell Street, gone. You know, like it's just the times are changing.
Yeah.
Things have to move on. But it's just my memories.
I would have very little knowledge of the area until I went to Colbrew Street for 4 years in college. And some of the characters that that was 15 years ago now, but some of the characters that you'd actually get to know from the area who'd just be around.
Yeah.
But it seemed to go.
I done a year in Colbrew Street.
Did you?
Yeah.
Cooking?
No, plastering. That's the truth.
We're learning plastering or actually plastering?
No, we were plastering the top floor, renovating. I remember like my wife would say, I'd go into conversation, I was going to be a chef. I was in Colbrew Street for a year. I'd say, and what did you learn? Well, I was plastering. I learned. We used to look out and the family planning offices were underneath the building next door. Is that right?
Yep.
You don't remember that far back, do you?
Well, it was still there 15 years ago. And
well, I'm talking about 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Or more. And back then, because of religion and that, contraceptives was like taboo. And you'd see fellas walking up and their chest is out and they're just about to step in and they'd run. And then they come back. And Padger Harris, a good friend of mine, he goes around town now on the pony and trap, taking customers from Stephen's Green. He's being moved on. And Padger walked there and he used to shout at the top of it, just go in and buy the Johnnies, don't be afraid. They'd run a mile. But Cattlebrewer Street, yeah, I done that. That's a good part of town.
Tell me about food growing up. What did you eat?
Basic. My ma had 6 of us in the house. Me nanny, me dad. There was 9 of us in a 2-bed. Cooking facilities were just basic.
9 of you in a 2-bed?
9 in a 2-bed. When my dad put a petition, I'd say one of the bedrooms would have been a little bit bigger than this. So petitioning it, and my nanny was in that one. My ma and dad was in that one. And we were in the front room. There was 4 boys. And the 2 girls were younger at the time, so they were in with my ma. But and we'd frost on the inside of the windows. People don't believe that. I met Caroline when I was 15, brought her down. She lived in O'Devaney Gardens upside the Phoenix Park, which is gone now. Another sad thing, it's gone. Great memories there. And I remember Caroline coming down and couldn't believe there was frost on the inside, you know. But food for us was, the breakfast was a fry.
Every morning?
No, not every morning. My dad, very healthy man. The breakfast was a fry on a Sunday. Sunday morning, big fry up. Wednesday was a stew. Friday was, what do you want me at dinner before the chipper closes? In other words, you're getting fish and chips. That was your choice. Saturday could have been a stew or a coddle.
What was in a stew now?
In our stew was mince. There was meat. There was carrots. There was onions, potatoes. It was a bit of a mongrel between a coddle and a stew. Sausages. Now, I done the cooking programme on RTE, the restaurant, I think they called it back in the day, and I cooked the stew. And Paolo, God rest his soul, and Derry, the man Derry, they were the judges, Derry Clark, yeah, and some other chap, and I cooked the stew. And when they tasted, they said, some cable tosser in the Highlands is after making this, and he's made it with oxtail soup out of a packet. I was thinking, they didn't think I was going to arrive out in Dalkey with a tail in my pocket or over my shoulder, how you carry an oxtail. But that was our stew. My ma, everyone's ma made a lovely stew. Yeah. Caroline's ma made a lovely stew, but her ma's stew was nicer to her than my ma's stew and my nanny's stew. So that was it. And then my favourite was mashed potatoes with a fried egg, a sausage and a few beans on it. I did that 7 days a week. And when I was going to work on a building site, my ma gave me a lunch one day. It was beetroot, cheese, lettuce, scallions. She called it a daggeroo sandwich on a batch loaf. It was the tastiest thing I've ever eaten in my life. Now, I'd sit down on a site, a fella'd have a sausage sandwich. Another fella'd have a ham sandwich from the Sunday ham or whatever. But I had this exotic daggeroo sandwich. And I said, Ma, that's lovely. I got that every day about 3 years. Every single day. It was They just called me beetroot face and all in the sight, you know. But that was it. We were basic but well fed. My mum was a great mother, putting food on the table.
What was her name?
Colette O'Rourke. Colette Collins, nee O'Rourke. That's why last week her father went from an orphanage at 14 years of age in Glasnevin into Guinness's as a boy, into the laboratories, and then he went as a Cooper apprentice at 18 in the Cooper department, Coopers they called it. So yeah, no, good whole food, well looked after, and a bottle of Guinness. When we were kids.
Really, yeah?
Yeah, when we were kids, we got a glass of stout with milk. And I can remember back as 8 years of age having that. My father worked in the brewery and he get 2 bottles of stout every day. It was called milk stout.
Oh, yeah.
And then, as I say, as we progressed over the years, it became stout with a drop of milk. Then it just became stout.
Yeah.
The milk, we diluted the milk out of it at about 15 years of age.
But Guinness was a huge thing in that area at that time. I'm pretty sure my great-grandfather on my mother's side lived out near Guinness Brewery and worked in the cooperage as well.
Yeah.
Had
he any British Army background?
Not that I know of.
Yeah. I found this out last week because they went right into the history of it. If you were in the British Army, or if you were retired, your children were offered jobs.
Really? Okay.
And you talk about nepotism. My grandfather's foil, and I'm talking about top of it in big print, outsider. He'd no family members, no family ties. So the priest in the orphanage got him in. And I think he worked out for 45 years or whatever. But it was a family thing. My grandmother lost 5 brothers in the war. Now, I'll be corrected on this, whoever's listening, from age 17 to 25, I think they lost a whole lot of them. So my grandmother had 5 sons, no daughters, and she named every single one of them after her brothers that she lost, except my father was called Pascal instead of Patrick, and every one of them was offered a job in Guinness's. My father worked in Birmingham from 14 years of age, shoveling coal on a train, till he came home at 17 and a half to walk into Guinness's with his other brothers, Terry, John, James, Dixie stayed in Glasgow. He never come home. So there's a great family history there. So
different times.
It was different times, but a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Free medical. You know, I remember going to the swimming pool. It was a swimming pool, but they called it the Bicentenary Centre. It was a swimming pool, right? Imagine in Carberra saying, lads, I'm going to the Bicentenary Centre. We're going to the Carberra Bats. But yeah, it was a great job. Well, after, yeah.
When did the football come in? Or was it the boxing?
I was boxing, always boxing. We had a gym out the back of the house. My dad built when we were overloaded in the house and everyone was getting an extension, a lot of stuff arrived in the garden, a lot of wood actually. And I thought, here we go, we're getting a bathroom because we had an outside toilet and an outside shower. My dad built. Our kitchen was a scullery, half the size of this room. And the table you ate your dinner off, you lifted it up, that was your bath. Anyway, so my dad proceeded to build this thing out the back, and then we realised he was hanging a heavy bag in it, and a floor-to-ceiling bag, and it was a little boxing gym, not for outsiders, just for us. So we boxing. But then, as everyone knows, I fell in love with football when I seen George Best playing the European Cup final.
That was it. What year?
That was it. 68. And then football on the road, boxing out the back. As you say, you go out the front door, you kick the ball, you went out the back door, you put the gloves on. But I done both until I was 16. And then I remember, and I keep telling the story, I made history in the National Stadium. I fought for 2 titles on the one night as an amateur. Me first and me last. That was it. I lost in the youth heavyweight title and I went to Fulham a couple of weeks later on a 3-month trial. And that was football for me. And I remember Brendan McCarthy wrote me a letter. He obviously read it in the book. I heard it somewhere. Brendan was a 9-time Irish champion and he was in Arbour Hill. And I was boxing over Arbour Hill at the time. And I said, I've an option. He says, what do you love the most? And I said, football. He said, well, just do it.
Quick pause to talk about a staple that is miles better when the quality is right. The M&S Irish Oakham Gold Chicken. It's raised here in Ireland to really high welfare standards, which you can taste straight away. The flavour is fuller, the texture is juicier, and it cooks beautifully, whether you're doing a simple roast or a quick weeknight dish. As a chef, I always say good chicken should stand on its own before you add anything to it. And this does exactly that. A bit of seasoning, a hot oven, and you're already winning. So if you want to elevate the most reliable ingredient in the kitchen, pick up an Irish Oakham Gold chicken from M&S. It's honest, it's dependable, and it's genuinely delicious.
When did you know you were good at football?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I played in the Mini Olympics, it was called back then, the Mini Olympics for Animo United, the road I lived on, against a team in Walkinstown. And we wore the green hoop jerseys. Now, Walkinstown for me was like going to Europe. You know what I mean? Like our furthest venture out of where we lived was the North Circular Road, about 500 yards away. That was it. We just lived in a little bubble. I remember going to Walkinstown. I scored a goal. I was about 9 playing with the under 12s. And I remember Joe Webb, the man that ran the team, and Tommy Miles. And they went and they said to me, Dad, he's not a bad little footballer. He got a great goal. And I remember that. But I just played for the fun. And then when I was about 16, I started getting noticed. Arsenal, Fulham, Man United, Celtic, they were all knocking at the door. So
How did you get noticed? Are there people who were there? What? Yeah.
Yeah. I remember playing for Stella Maris one day. I thought nothing of it. And there was a man there, small little man, didn't know him, come up to me after the match with the manager, Jimmy Brannigan, who was my manager and coach at the time, one of the greatest. And Jimmy said, this man must have taught. His name is Gordon Clark. He's the chief scout from Fulham. And I remember he took out a handful of money. He said, I want you to come to Fulham. And that's what it's all about. I've no value on money.
To a what, 15-year-old or something?
I was 15, nearly 16. I mean, all I wanted to get is, I was never on an airplane. I was thinking, are we going on a boat? No, we fly it over. I couldn't believe it, you know. And I remember...
Glamour, as he said.
The glamour of George Best when I was 8. I arrived over and who's sitting there on George Best. So, and I had him on my wall, like, the Shoot magazine was the thing. I had George Best all over my wall.
What are you thinking when you meet him?
Well, I knew he was there before I got on the flight, and it's just like, I don't know how to explain it. When I walked into the club and seen him, it was like it wasn't real. If that makes sense to you. I met Ali twice. I met Roberto Duran, my idols. Haven't met Tom Jones. I'd love to. But George Best, it was like looking at a porcelain statue to me. That's the truth. I can't explain that, but people go, he's mad. And then I was in the youth team dressing room. But then to be allowed to interact, I was brought and trained with the first team for one morning. And he sat and put his arm around me because my pal Paddy McCarthy, he went home homesick. And he put his arm around your homesick. I said, no. I thought I was going to be in the first team in a month. And he was great. And then I got training beside him. And I didn't know what way to take it. You know, as I say to people in jest, when we were on the training ground, I didn't know what to call him. So they were calling him Bestie. Rodney Marsh was calling him Georgie. So I was shouting Georgie and Bestie, you know, like frantic. And then I was saying I wasn't even on the same team, you know. Every ball I got was giving it to Bestie, and every ball I got was calling. We weren't even on the same team. But I was just unbelievable. And then to put the icing on the cake, I was there about 2 months. And I thought I was signed. I actually thought I was signed. I signed the farm, never signed the farm in my life. And I was getting something like £30 a week. I never seen £30 in my life. So I thought I was a professional waiting to be called into the first team. Anyway, my dad arrived over out of the blue, didn't even know he was coming. There was no contact back then. Once a week, my dad standing in the phone box in the North Circular Road, and he'd be there, say, from 7 to half 7, and then Carolyn would jump in from half 7 to half 7 the next morning. We'd be talking. But anyway, my dad just arrived down an hour. I couldn't believe it. Coming back from a game against Watford, I was after scored and played really well. And it was a day like today. It was horrible weather. And they were playing a song on the boat, 2, 4, 6, 8, blah, blah, blah. All jumping around the bus. And I looked out. There's me dad walking by with his little hold-all bag and a little overcoat, and he was soaked. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, he come in, and George Best, he said to me, I'd love to meet George Best. And he was a boxing man, my father, but George Best was like, he was iconic to anybody who didn't care about football. And I said to George Best, would you mind having a chat with me dad? He sat with me dad for 15 minutes. No, I don't know what they talked about. It could have been boxing. And it made me the happiest ever. It was unbelievable to see the two of them. It was brilliant. So, yeah, he was great. George Best, and that was the start of it then. Then it was, I went back and I went to Arsenal then. And, yeah.
Tough for a kid.
Sorry?
It's a tough life for a kid. It's still happening now, isn't it? Going over to England at that age. And
it's terrible. But the world was bigger then. Like, it was my first time on a flight. And the Troubles were full flow. And there was lots of references getting made to that. You know, and we were the Paddy, the Black and the Dog. That's the way it was back in then. Enough of that, you know. But it was, but I didn't care. It's just a football for me. But the way it was, you lived in digs. You grew up in the morning. You went to training. You done your training. You helped clean up with all the other apprentices. You got home about 5 o'clock. You had your dinner. 7 o'clock, you're back sitting in your room, trying to sleep, just to put in the board. It was horrendous. There was nothing to do. And I remember staying with a family in Richmond who were very, very well-to-do, very posh. And they were lovely people, but we were from 2 different planets. And I remember them telling me, you can't look at our telly, you can't use the phone, and you must stay in your room. Right? And then they actually told me the only reason I was there is to contribute to their skiing holiday. That's where they took me in. That's the truth. And they gave me red cabbage one day. I didn't believe there was such thing as red cabbage. We got bacon and cabbage in Dublin and Cabaret. Red cabbage. I went, what's that? That was left in the fridge again the next day. Anyway, they weren't bad people. They just had their own way of doing things. So
different planet.
But
nowadays, like when you get into football, obviously you see Premier League, the big names, but there's, for every, I suppose, one superstar, there's 500 people who are going along. That must be a tough old way to try and make a living. Lower leagues, sitting on squads, not making match day squads. What's that like?
Oh, horrendous. The lower leagues is like the journeyman in boxing. There's no glory. It's a living. But you live with this dream. See, in the lower leagues, you're either coming down from a career, or you're there, never had a career, or you're coming up to try and make a career. So whatever your mentality is,
crossroads.
Do you know what I mean? It's an out-and-out crossroads. So whatever your mentality is will sustain while you're there. The fellas coming down need to pay their mortgage. The fellas that are there have found their level, and the ones coming into starting off believe they can climb up. And I was that one. I was the eternal optimist.
They're the kids.
Well, at the lower levels, the League Twos now, you didn't get many kids. It was such a physical, demanding, hostile environment the dressing room was. It was a hostile environment. It was dog eat dog. And I remember arriving at Mansfield when I did sign at 26 years of age. I was hitting 26. I forged a bird cert saying I was 21. So it was a meat market back then in the lower leagues. And you don't get a game. Like, I went over on my own for the first year, and then Caroline come over with my first child, Sinead, and I broke my leg twice. There's no future. You're living there. No one talks to you when you're injured. No one wants to know. And you're trying to keep the spirits up, and you're trying to keep the spirits of your wife up, and then you're trying to take the responsibility of your child. Oh, it should be all right. And you're making no money.
I was going to ask, are you able to make a living out of it?
No. No. I was making more on a building site playing part-time football before I went to England. But my dream, because, you see, when I was younger and I went to Fulham, Arsenal and Wolves, and it didn't work out because I was insufficient in a lot of stuff that I corrected when I was about 18. I was more mature as a person. I understood why I didn't hit the levels. And then I started playing really well. I played for Bows in Europe at 18. Played really well. And Man United, Spurs and Celtic then made contact. And then, not a sad story, played against UCD and I got a shattered leg. So I missed 2 years. And then I come back and I was finished. Everyone's finished. But I still believed. I still believed. I never made it to the heights where people thought at the beginning, but I made it to the height I could only make it. And I was happy. I'd hate to be sitting here now and going, I should have tried harder. I couldn't have tried any harder. I just couldn't have.
No regrets?
No regrets. Absolutely none. But I made no money. I only got one stroke of luck. I signed with Newport County. I remember Mansfield released me and I went down to Cambridge United because the story is a mad story. I played for Mansfield against Doncaster Rovers And the player manager was a fella called Dave Cusick, 6'4" monster, big heavy centre half, and it was a Paddy's Day, Patrick's Day, and he called me Paddy, this, Paddy, I'll be Paddy. So I lost. I just went boom on the chin, and I cleaned him out, and he was stretchered off, and I forgot about it, and that was it. So when my contract was up, they released me. I got a phone call. A fella called Chris Turner was the manager of Cambridge. I went down to him, and he said to me, "Me best mate, Dave Cusick, says you can handle yourself, and I need someone like that." So I played a friendly game against Stevenage on the Saturday. I went up the head of ball. This was coming back off 2 broken legs now. Come up the head of ball, came down, put my arm down, elbow popped out. And he said, "Rod, I can't wait. It's going to take 6 weeks." Yeah. So I was ready to come home. Neville Chamberlain played with me. He was down in Newport County. He says, "Rod, I'm going out with a striker." So I cut the cast off, right? And I went down, took a few painkillers, scored against Halifax in my first game. Paddy Roach was in goal, who played for Man United in Ireland on his way down in his career. Scored, and he gave me a contract the next day, 2-year contract. Wow. So I went from being absolutely skint with nothing, sitting in a digs the size of this, with a wife. I was 27, 28, with a wife and 2 kids back in Ireland with nothing. I remember Caroline ringing me crying on the phone one day. She says, "Rod, what's happening?" She says, "One of the kids are sick and I've no way to go to the doctor." I said, "Please, just bear with me." Then I got that contract. I bought a house for 100% mortgage. We lived in a 1-room flat. My child was born in the Royal Gwent Hospital, and we lived in a 1-room flat, a bedsit, while I was waiting to get going. I bought a house for 24 grand, and I sold it 18 months later for 52.
You were up and running.
That was the only money I ever had, and I bought a house up in Castleknock. So people say, "Do you ever make money in football?" Never, ever made a penny.
Some people do. Describe to me a top-rate Premiership footballer now. What does their day look like?
Well,
absolute top.
Well, their day looks like they live in a bubble for starters. They get up, they're pampered, everything's laid out on them. They go to their training ground, their breakfast, their kit, their rehabilitation, their stretching, everything is just looked after. They train. They probably don't train that much now with the amount of games they play. It's all recovery, and maybe a couple of instructions on a laptop, or sorry, not on a laptop. They have their own tablet now that they study at home, and just travelling and playing basically, and
all the food managed, private
everything,
chefs, everything.
Blood taken every day.
Really?
Yeah, blood's taken every day. Weighed regular. It's unbelievable. I mean, they're just treated like, well, they're getting paid well. However, the downside is 99% of these people are managed, and their money's managed by other people. And they're so consumed in what they do. There's a high percentage of bankruptcy with these superstars when they finish playing. Mm. That's the sad part of it, like boxing. But no, they live
it's like a commodity almost.
Even we're just commodity.
We're recording this just off back of a transfer window, and it's just like people talked about as sums of money and figures. You forget that actually, as much as they're paid, there are people behind these sort of figures and stories.
But even getting into the new coaching, I've done all these coaching courses. You're a number 6 now. You're a number 8. You're a number 10. You're a this, you're a that. Angelotti said the best thing I ever heard, and I only heard it about 2 weeks ago. He said, "I'm 2 people." He says, "I'm a coach and I'm a man." He says, "You're a footballer and you're a man." He says, "When I pick the team, I pick her as a coach and I pick you as a footballer. If I don't pick you, it's not because you're a man and I'm a man, it's because of the team." So he sort of defined what the role is.
It's like any workplace almost.
Well, it is, but I just believe personally, I think the ones that are more successful with all the money are the ones that keep it simple as regards relationships. You're not a number 9. I mean, you don't know. I've had this, even at my level. You walk into a dressing room and there's a player yawning and he looks exhausted. You know he's not a messer. You know he's not a drinker. And you go, right, what's wrong there? So you make a few inquiries. What's the crack? Well, I won't name him. What's the crack with Joey, say? He said his wife had a baby 2 weeks, so the baby's not well and colic or something. That's not a number 9. That's a man who's been up all night, probably 3 nights in a row. Into the office. Are you all right? Yeah, you all right? Man, I haven't slept well. Go on home. I'll see you Thursday. How's your wife? She's not well, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of flowers up to the house. Thursday comes in. That man will die for you. Add the ability. Look what Martin O'Neill's done at Celtic. The other fella in there, you were a number 9, a number 4, number 3. Martin O'Neill goes in. Do you know what I mean? So that's how I manage.
Does that happen at the top level?
Yes. Happens at Man City. It's happening at Arsenal. Look at Man United with Carrick gone back in. It's happening there. It's like fashion. There's a renaissance in football going back to the old school. Tactically, the big number 9. The lads being the lads, not the group. They're a great group. The process, no process. We need to win next Saturday. So I can see that. And for me, who wants to get back into the game and never wanted to be out of the game, Martin O'Neill has been the best thing's ever happened. He walked in, flick of a switch, old school, with the young bucks. Like, fellas don't want old school training or coaching, but they want old school management. They want to feel important. And football, like any business, if your confidence is sky high, you'll be at your best if you're happy. And the most important thing is to instill confidence in. I mean, the least, how can you say, the least, what's the word, player? The least talented player you have and the most talented player you have should feel the very same confidence to get the best out of either or either. You can't say, oh, well, he's brilliant, leave him alone. I'd walk into a dressing room and I'd say, do you think you were good in the first half? I was all right. No, you weren't. You were brilliant. You were brilliant. And you still only played at 70%. Show us what you can do in the second half. You know, fella, not having a good game. How'd you think you're doing? I've been absolutely crap. Pick out all the good things. Well, that's your opinion. But you made 2 great tackles. You made a great run that decoyed for someone else. You never gave up. You're an inspiration to everyone. You know, the other stuff is natural. That'll come to you. Don't worry about that. Second half, best player on the pitch. That's management. It's like Mourinho. I told a story during the week. Mourinho delayed the final whistle. You heard the story, did you?
Tell it to our listeners. I did hear it because they were just off the back of the last round of the Champions League here.
He was waiting, so he knew that they needed an extra goal with minutes to go or they were out. Now, he wouldn't have known that if you didn't keep the players in the dressing room. So that was management. That's using your brain. He does that. Anyway, they got the goal. I tell a story. I was manager of Carlisle United. We played Tranmere Rovers in the FA Cup when they were in the Championship down to Prenton Park, I think they call the ground. We had the players sent off after 15 minutes and we were gone. Went in a half time. Second half. Sit down. Everyone sit down. The buzzer in the dressing room.
That's to get you out.
Get you back out.
Yeah.
No, Sky, Live, BBC, whatever. Lads, stay where you are, relax. They're all looking. So I let them out 5 minutes overtime. Murder. So the game was over and I got interviewed. He said to me, did you keep them in half time and give them a good roast? And I said, no. I said, we were down a man and we were 4-0 down as well. Right? And I reckon the longer we stayed in the dressing room, the longer we stayed in the FA Cup. That's what I said. Right? Fine. The club got a fine. But, like, management is management. Coaching is coaching. This new idea of you're the head coach, forget about it. There's a million coaches going around. They're all doing courses. Everyone's a coach now.
Yeah.
I done every license you can imagine. Qualified to manage the Premier League, qualified to manage the Champions League. I done course for all these fellas. They wouldn't win they wouldn't win a Sabutio game of football. No man management skills, no personality, no foresight. This is going to happen. I need to correct this. Or keep them in the dressing room for 10 minutes. Or I'll tell you a story. I had a team with identical twins in it. Go in at half time, one of them, Rod, my hamstring is tight, really tight. And I went, okay, give me your jersey. Put his twin brother out.
Didn't waste a sub.
Didn't waste a sub. Do you know what I mean? That's management.
Who's the best in the business, in your opinion?
Best manager? Well, I have to say Martin O'Neill at the moment because I'm a Celtic man and he's brilliant. People can argue and say, well, you know, but he got Ireland to the Euros. People can say, you see, management, it's not all about money, and it is about money. You can give a brilliant manager who's able to motivate and get middle of the road players and get them working as a team unit, millions and millions, and he could fail. You could get Pep Guardiola to go down to League Two, and he probably wouldn't keep a team in the league. So when it's a huge, management, to me, Alex Ferguson was the greatest. He was the greatest because he changed with the times. It's no good me walking into a dressing room now and talking to an 18-year-old in my lingo of 40 years ago, walking up Henry Street talking to blah, blah, blah. It's not like that. You have to go with the times and understand the lingo and understand that you can't with young players now. It's gone.
With all of them or some of them?
Well,
I see it just from a kitchen perspective. It's exactly the same. It doesn't matter if you're managing a kitchen team, a football team, a corporate team.
Yeah.
Some people need a bit of a push and some people need the arm around the shoulder.
Well, you have to be more careful to identify and be sure that the ones you're going to bang the table is, it's going to work. Because a lot of snowflakes out there now, a lot of them. And you have to be careful on that one. Like, I remember a player, bang, right in the chin, he hit me. He hit me right in the chin. There was a bit of, what would you call it? British shenanigans going on behind the scenes to undermine me with the players because my strength is the players. I love them and they love me. We die for each other. So there was a few little things getting out to undermine me. So I told the lads at Corfu, we were playing the cup final in Millennium Stadium on the Sunday. We beat Oxford on the Tuesday night, which was a great result under the circumstances. So I said, lads, 12 o'clock into bed. Have a couple of beers back in the day, 12 o'clock I go in and one of them still having a point. I says, right, up. He said, shut up, you. All right. I couldn't believe it. I was at his christening. So I said, get up to bed. So we went up to bed and I was fuming. So I went up, knocked on his room and his partner in crime answered the door. I said, where's he? Sleeping bed. I went, a few drinks on him. Richie, get up, I want to talk to you. What? I said, get up. So he grew up and said, don't you ever speak to me like that. I said, forget about football, you're fat. And before I could get the sentence, bang, right-hander. I went, okay, that's the way you want it. So I stripped off to the waist. That's what we do. I don't know if it's a Collins thing, but I think it gives you time to, count to 10 and go, right, how am I going to approach this one? So I stripped off to the waist anyway.
What a scene.
So we had a high chaparral in the room and I didn't hit him in the head because he was my best player. But I body shot and went bang, boom, boom, boom. After about, could have been a minute, could have been 5 minutes. The sweat was baiting out the two of us. He says, Rod, I've enough. And that was it. So I went in, the sweat was pumping. I went up to my room, had a quick shower, went down, and I ordered a shandy with ice.
This is now 1 o'clock in the morning, is it?
Would have been 1 o'clock in the morning. Shandy with ice just to calm down. I got a tap in the shoulder, and there he's behind me. I went, oh no, I thought you had enough. He says, I have, Rod. He says, any chance for shandy? Sit down, you gob. He says, am I sacked? I says, no. He says, am I playing in the cup final? I says, yeah, he's my best player. Do you know what I mean? So that's management. That probably wouldn't happen now. It wouldn't be allowed to happen. But
I don't know if we fly at Man City nowadays, but I love it. Give me your table of 4 dream guests.
Dream guests for a meal.
Yeah, you've got 4 seats.
Sean Edwards, one of my greatest friends. Vinnie Jones, one of my other greatest friends. I'd have to think about that one.
You don't have time, Roddy.
Oh, no. See, I want to pick the right ones.
Have another sip of the organic red wine.
Terry Everston, who I played with and he managed with me, the most eccentric, funniest, he doesn't even know he's so funny, character. And there's one like him that I said I'd love to put the two of them together. Well, Sean Edwards and Terry Evison, it'd be a great combination.
All football people.
Sean's rugby, Terry's football.
Yeah.
Vinny wouldn't be. We wouldn't talk about football now. That'd be banned, completely banned out of conversation. Chris Sutton.
Really?
Yeah, Chris is brilliant. I've done me pro license with him, and we started gravitating towards each other because we talked about everything but football. Very intelligent, very funny, very dry. I'll tell a story. When I went in, I was late for my first day. I was little Roddy Collins from Bowes. Walked in, and the room was full. I sat at the back, looked around. Jackie McNamara, Chris Sutton, Alan Thompson, Eddie Howe, Neil McCann, all European Cup winners or finalists, Premier League winners, the whole lot. So we were given a task. You're a team and you're playing in the European Cup. For argument's sake, you're Newcastle, you're playing AC Milan. How do you adopt to this and how do you adopt to that? So they said to me, what's your team? I said, my team is in this room. So I went, Bettinelli was the goalkeeper coach at Fulham. I said, Betts in goal. Jackie McNamara, right back. Left back, Tomo. Martin O'Neill wasted money on you. You're not a wing back, you're a left back. I was getting a control. Who's this fella? I never met him before. Who's this fella? Eddie Howe. Played against Eddie. When I was the manager, he played centre back. Eddie, blah, 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 blah. Got to the last one, I said, big man Chris, centre forward, up front on your own. He looked at me as cold as you could get, and he goes, no, I never met this fella before. First day, he goes, I ain't fucking playing for you. The real man. And I'm going, you're dead right, you're not big man. You're playing with your mother and your father, who brought you to a park when you were that size, who bought you football boots. You're playing because you're the captain of my team. You're playing because there's 60,000 people out there depending on you. That's why you're playing with me, big man. Okay. Fuck, I'm in. And that was it. That was it. Me and him just thought we talked about today. We done a course and they asked him about 10 times, we'll just stop. He winding everyone up. Someone would come in to lecture about food. I ain't having that. Too much salt in that. It was just great, you know. So he asked me a question. Chris Sutton, Terry Evison, Vinnie Jones, Sean Edwards.
What are you drinking?
Well, Vinnie doesn't drink. Sean used to drink lager when he was a rugby league player. Now he drinks Moët. Terry Evison, pints of stout. And Chris Sutton, I think, would be a very cultured glass of expensive wine.
And yourself?
Marks and Spencer's bottle of that organic wine you just gave me today. Beautiful.
On that note, Roddy Collins, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
It was an
Thank
absolute
you.
pleasure. If you'd like, you can like and subscribe. Leave a review of this episode. It really helps the ratings, or even just tell a friend. And I will see you next time.